With too many simulation games being developed every day, covering almost all jobs, one certain game lacks attention. Many games are being developed, from farming your land to selling medicine. Yet, one game hadn't been given enough attention until Taxi Life, a city driving simulator, was released. So today, I'm going to share my experience with this and whether it's worth money or not. And for that, and for other reasons, I traveled personally to Barcelona and recorded some videos myself to compare them with the game. I'm gonna show them, of course, so before we kick off, grab a beer and let's go. Before I dive into the details, the game takes place in Barcelona, Spain. And I have to mention that there had been a bunch of games that put you behind the wheel, not as a bus driver, not as a truck driver, but as a taxi driver. Unfortunately, there were either for mobile phones or a game that I've tried once and then I stopped, and I'm referring to Crazy Taxi, which for me looked more like a race than a simulation. But Taxi Life is different. The idea is just the same as other driving games. Simulation driving, I mean. Satisfy customers, follow the rules, build your company, grow it. Nothing complicated, nothing we haven't seen before. The only difference is that now you are behind the taxi wheel, which is new. Because most driving simulators are truck and bus simulators. Don't get me wrong, I love these games, but there are just too many. And most of them, not all of course, are the same. Yeah, there are differences in vehicles and cities, but the idea is the same. Before Taxi Life, the only game that really gave me the chance to play as a taxi driver was, try to guess, a game I'm sure not too many would guess. GTA 5. Yes, it was the only game that allowed me to play as a taxi driver. Of course without refueling and fixing the car, but I couldn't find any other game that gave me this opportunity. Even Mafia series didn't give me this option, which I'll of course talk about in details in another video. So Taxi Life was a relief for me. But before I dive into what I liked and what I didn't, I must tell you that I purchased this game several months ago when it was first released as an early access, but later I asked for a refund. Not because I didn't like it, no. Even at that stage the game was nice, but I didn't want to spend around 25 euros for an early access game, which had many issues, but I never lost faith in it. I decided to wait until the full release to see how it would look like and how the developers would deal with the issues. A couple of months after that, when released as a full game, I bought it again, when it was on discount. This time I decided to keep it. I still had around 1 hour until my refund period would expire, because I spent around 1 hour in first purchase to play and try it. But I finally decided to keep it, because this time almost 90% of the issues were solved. So now, let's share what I liked and what I didn't. I'm going to start with the cons. First, AI. Have you ever lived in a city where most pedestrians were trying to commit suicide? Or people trying to get themselves hit by a car to get some insurance money? If not, this game had these people. In several situations, pedestrians jumped in front of the car. They would stand still when you are far, and they would decide to move only when you are too close to them, and it's too late to brake, resulting in losing the order and money, whether you are on your way to pick up your customer or the customer is already in the car. In both cases, the order is cancelled. Number 2. Parking. Sometimes the easiest thing is to park the car, either to pick up or drop off your customer. But most of the times, the parking area needs a microscope. And if that's not difficult enough, the customer would want you to park exactly in the very center of the area. Is it enough? No, it's not. Take more. In some narrow neighborhoods, such areas exist by the way. I'll show these neighborhoods in the What I Like session. You feel you want to be in GTA just to shoot such customers. Number 3. Wheel support. As a new game, it's okay to have some lack of wheel support, but I don't think it's acceptable when it's full game. When choosing a manual transmission, And if you have the clutch, you are supposed to step on the clutch and then change your H shifter to change to the next gear. What we actually have in the game is that the H shifter works alone and you don't need to step on the clutch. Now, I'm not too much into car mechanics, but as far as I know, that's impossible. Next cons, locations are disabled. When playing with the wheel, petrol stations and car wash are disabled. You can still see the areas where you are supposed to park, but when you park inside them, they don't work. For example, when I need to refuel, I park in the area where I'm supposed to park, turn the engine off and press the button to refuel, but nothing happens. I had to change settings to keyboard or joystick, restart the game, and it would work. You can't simply change settings while you are in the game. So every time you need to refuel, you will have to order a tow service to take you to the garage, pay the fee, and then refuel. You can't simply drive to the garage because you're already out of fuel. Next, recording the gameplay. When I tried to record some moments of the game to use in my video, I was surprised to see that what I recorded covered only half the screen. I tried to change the resolution and record again, but it didn't work. I tried the same settings with other games and everything went well, but it didn't work with the game, so I had to use Creative Commons videos. Now, it's time to move to what I liked. Environment graphics. Before visiting Barcelona, I thought that the developers would only take some touristic points and add them to the game, but I was wrong. Barcelona in the game looked too much like the real Barcelona. There were some narrow streets next to the main streets, you can see them on the right, behind the trees. When I visited Barcelona, I found out that they did exist. They are for cycling. I'll leave you with one of the videos I recorded myself to compare the game with the real Barcelona. The first two videos are for the narrow roads on the right behind the trees. They're actually for cyclists. They are right next to the main wide street. The second one will also show you the main streets. I'll put them next to each other so you can watch and see the comparison as clear as possible. Now, before I move to the last video comparison, I have to mention that the game really supports manual transmission. You can use your H shifter unless you are driving an electric car. Most games nowadays don't have this option, so it was a really good feature to show this in a taxi. Now, let's move to the last video comparison. Showing Barcelona as it really is. Some places in the city are just too narrow. Only one car can barely move, with one-way direction. When I first played the game, I thought it was only to add some more difficulty to the game for some hardcore players. But I actually spent 3 days in one of these parts of the city where I rented a room for 3 nights. The only difference is that in the game this location is inside the city of Barcelona. But in reality it's about 15 minutes outside it, in a town called Badalona, on the beach. I'll leave you with the video I recorded. Just when it comes to the in-game video, ignore the bug, which is also a nice feature. The last good point I would like to mention is the music. I must admit, it was the last thing I could imagine to be so nice. Usually with such games, developers don't pay too much attention to the music, but this game was an exception. The music, at least for me, was beautiful. Final verdict: if you have reached this far, that means you like the game, and it's your type, so I would say go on. Go ahead and buy it. The game is beautiful, even in its current state. I'm not saying it's perfect, no game is perfect. Even a AAA game, there are still a lot to be worked on and improved, and developers are constantly working on updates, so it's fair to say that it's getting the attention it needs. But I would suggest, just like all games, to wait for a discount. So guys, that was my review of the game. If you have already played it, let me know in the comments what you think. If you still haven't, let me know if this review has helped you decide. Thank you very much for watching, and see you later in another video about another game.